You're listening to the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown and AEW Rampage from April 8th, 2022. If there's one word I can describe Friday Night SmackDown, and that is, it's name change mania on SmackDown. We had a lot of name changes on the show. Really, to be quite honest, it was only 2 name changes, but a lot of people were talking about them. But overall, was SmackDown a good show? Not really. Was it better than the Raw after WrestleMania? I can say yes, it was, but it still really felt like it wasn't special at all. Really, the only important thing on the show was Roman Reigns in the end, and it was a good segment. I enjoyed the segment with Roman Reigns. Of course, he wants the Usos to unify both the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Finally, I think that is a perfect decision, and I'll talk about that later on right here on the SmackDown and Rampage review. Speaking of Rampage, Rampage was a great show. I enjoyed Rampage for what it was, and we can't talk about Rampage without talking about the fantastic match that Wheeler Yuta and Jon Moxley put out in the center of the ring. It was a complete bloodbath on Rampage this past Friday. It was an awesome match, and it was a really bloody match. And it's safe to say that Wheeler Yuta is an official member of the Blackpool Combat Club. But we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the SmackDown and Rampage reviews. But before I get on with these reviews, make sure to like and subscribe to the Broken Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the Broken Havoc podcast is now available on audio formats. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. If you guys want to check out the Broken Havoc podcast and all the different reviews that I put out on the podcast in audio format, it's available on all of those platforms. All right, let's get on with the SmackDown review. Again, as I stated earlier, SmackDown was really, in my opinion, kind of a lackluster show for what it was. To me, I felt, and this is the case with Raw. And one of my biggest problems with the Raw show was, it's supposed to be the Raw after WrestleMania, right? And usually whenever it's the Raw after WrestleMania, like, the crowd is just absolutely amped up. Like, the crowd is just absolutely crazy, and they tend to hijack the show. One WrestleMania I tend to remember, or Raw after WrestleMania I tend to remember, was the Raw after WrestleMania 29. If you guys don't recall, the entire crowd hijacked the entire show. They were chanting the most random shit ever. It was like they took a random drug. But, it really didn't feel that way this year. And it really hasn't felt that way these past couple years, to be quite honest with you. But this year, to me, I kind of felt like it was, I don't know. Something about it just didn't feel right. But really, the only important things that happened on the show were 3 things. Of course, the main event, that being, well, it was not really the main event, but, the opening segment with Cody Rhodes, which was, by the way, fantastic. There's a lot of reports out there saying that it was a scripted promo. And if that was, I'm shocked, because to me, that promo that Cody Rhodes cut felt like a promo straight out of AEW Dynamite. The Edge and Damian Priest thing that was going on, which I'm definitely interested in. I'm really excited for that new faction that Edge is going to be putting out. Not only that, the Roman Reigns promo. I think the Roman Reigns promo is definitely, I thought it did its job, in my opinion, but really, to be quite honest, it kind of hyped up what he was going to do on SmackDown. But it is what it is. He's going to be on both shows from now on, mainly because of the fact that he holds both belts. But yeah, man, those were the only interesting things on Raw. Really, what was interesting about the SmackDown show? There was really nothing interesting on the SmackDown show. We had Ronda Rousey challenging Charlotte Flair in an I Quit match at Backlash. I refuse to call it WrestleMania Backlash. I just don't understand. I mean, I get why they would call, like, Backlash WrestleMania Backlash for, like, marketing value, because they know the name WrestleMania sells. But, like, for all these years, they've been using the word Backlash. What is wrong with just using the word Backlash? To me, it just makes no sense, but it is what it is. But, the Ronda Rousey challenged Charlotte Flair to an I Quit match at WrestleMania Backlash. We had Butch versus Xavier Woods, in which Butch lost his first match. We had Gunther versus a random jobber. Happy Talk, in which Corbin turned on Happy Corbin. We had a lot of stuff on this show. But, yeah, man. So SmackDown kicks off with Ronda Rousey. She has an interview with Kayla Braxton. And Ronda, of course, talks about her match that she had with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, which I thought was an okay match. Granted, the build for the entire match was pure garbage, but, for what it was, to me, it wasn't as bad of a match. Do I say it was the best match of the night? Was it better than Bianca and Becky? Hell no. If you were to ask me what match I'd rather take, it'd be Becky versus Bianca, because that match was by far the best women's match in the entire weekend, in my opinion. But she talks about her match with Charlotte at Mania. It says that if she beat Charlotte once, but not twice, she tapped her out, but not when it counted, and that's on her. Again, Ronda Rousey is still cutting a promo like, she really doesn't care. Then Kayla tells Ronda that Roman Reigns later tonight will reveal his next steps. And she asks Ronda what are her next steps. I hate when they do that. They always do this. Like, oh, Roman Reigns did this. Like, Roman Reigns has nothing to do with the storyline. So why are you bringing Roman Reigns into the situation? Just ask the question instead of mentioning Roman Reigns. To me, it's not Kayla Braxton's fault. It's the WWE, it's creative, but still, like, don't mention Roman Reigns if Roman Reigns has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. To me, it kind of makes no sense. But, she asks Ronda what her next steps are, and Ronda wants a rematch. So Ronda wants a rematch, but it's not a regular match. She basically states that she does not want Charlotte to take the easy way out, and she wants a match with no loopholes and no doubt, and challenges Charlotte to an I Quit match. And then after that, Charlotte is on the Titantron laughing. Then what happens is she talks about how she couldn't beat her in checkers, let alone an I Quit match. She is Charlotte Flair. Quitting is not in her DNA. Winning is her DNA. She felt the pressure of the armbar, but she still did not lose. She is starting to think that the baddest woman on the planet is not a slobby catchphrase. It's a myth, because she can't win when it matters. And the answer to the offer or the challenge is a no. Of course, that is typical heel tactics by Charlotte Flair, and tells her to get in the back of the line, bitch. And then Ronda says the fight is still going to happen, and she's not going to say I quit, because she's going to scream when she bends her arm backwards, and the segment ends. What are my overall thoughts on this segment? To me, I don't know, man. This whole Charlotte versus Ronda feud to me was just kind of lackluster. It was just there. Like, I just did not enjoy it whatsoever. They tried so hard to try to, like, make people care. But let's be honest with you, like, ever since Ronda came back to me, I just felt like, Ronda was just there, and she didn't bring a whole lot to the table, in my opinion, when she came back this year. She brought a lot to the table on her first run in the WWE, but really now she's just there, in my opinion. And there's really, to me, and it's not really on WWE, it's on her as well, because I feel like every promo she cuts, and I constantly say this on the SmackDown review, I just don't feel that genuineness from Ronda Rousey. I really don't. Like, I really don't believe her as a babyface when it comes to Ronda Rousey, especially when she cuts her promos. Her promos as a babyface are not good at all. She's fantastic in the ring, but she's not good on the microphone as a babyface. It just doesn't work. But what are my thoughts on the I Quit match at Backlash? Honestly, I think this is definitely going to be the blow-off. Do I think Ronda's going to win? Most likely. I think they're going to do the 50-50 booking route. And then if Ronda does win the SmackDown Women's title, where are they going to go from there? We'll have to wait and see. But do I think it's going to be a good match? Hopefully. It's an I Quit match. I tend to love I Quit matches. But, from this whole feud starting after the Royal Rumble, to me, like, the feud to me, it was just not interesting whatsoever. And really, I have no hope. But hopefully the match is pretty good for what it is. But let's be honest, like, I really have no expectations. I honestly do not care whatsoever. All right. We got Butch versus Xavier Woods. Butch, a.k.a. Pete Dunne. Yes, I can't believe. I don't know why. Like, look, I was someone that didn't watch a lot of NXT. But, like, why that? This is the crazy thing now. Like, why are you changing NXT wrestlers' names? I get that you want to trademark things and you want to own things. I totally get that. But, like, why are you changing names of NXT wrestlers when they're getting called up, even though NXT is on the same network as Raw? That's just mind-boggling to me. So you're basically treating the audience like they're freaking stupid. It's really dumb. I don't know why they do that, but whatever. So Woods and Kofi cut a promo, and Woods talks about how, Mania is technically the season finale and how all records are reset. I didn't know wins and losses matter in WWE. But then Woods says that he got out of the red-eye flight, and then he hit the gym, and he bruised the weights. That's a little Easter egg or a little nod right there to the bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. So he bruised the weights, and it says he got his Auntie Anna on the line, and she says that she couldn't wait for him to whip his rabies-infested ass. So the match starts. Both lock up. We get a side headlock by Woods. We get a clothesline by Butch. Butch did get some offense during this match. Woods regains control. He hits a chop into the corner. Butch then regains offense, but then gets dropped onto the middle turnbuckle. But then Butch hits a kick and drives the knee onto Xavier Woods. Then he stomps onto the elbow of Woods. Woods then goes for a Russian leg sweep. And then he goes for a basement dropkick. Woods then goes onto the middle rope, but misses. Then Butch throws Woods onto the apron. At this point, Butch is actually bleeding from the top of his nose. So, like, I remember I actually missed the first hour of SmackDown. And so I had to go back and watch it. And I didn't want to watch it on Daily Motion, mainly because of the fact that, there's so many ads on that shit. And I didn't even DVR it. But the thing about it is that I was watching this match. And I remember watching the highlights on YouTube. And it was all black and white. So I literally had to search up the entire full match. And I didn't realize that Butch was actually bleeding during the match. But then after that, continuing on with the match, Butch is bleeding from the top of his nose. We go to commercial break, and once we're back from break, Butch is in control. We get a kick by Butch, and then we get a forearm by Butch. We get a cover by Butch and a near fall. Then he works on the arm of Xavier Woods. We get repeated rights by Xavier Woods. Then Woods goes for a couple of chops. We get a rolling forearm by Woods, and then he hits a leg lariat. He picks up Butch, but Butch escapes. Then Woods hits an enziguri. We get an enziguri from the apron by Woods again. Then Woods tries to go for the springboard, but falls into a right hand by Butch. Butch then goes for the attack, and then we get a kick to the back of the head of Woods, which looked devastating, by the way. We get a cover and a near fall by Pete Dunne. Butch then goes for repeated kicks, and then he misses the running kick. Woods applies an inside cradle, and then he wins the match. Overall thoughts, it's a pretty good little match, but the only problem is that Butch lost the match, so Butch is not taken seriously. He's taken as a joke. So yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't know why they would change his name to Butch. This is how to bury a wrestler 101. Change their name from Pete Dunne to Butch and have them lose their first match. That's how you bury a wrestler in first minute. And that's how you bury a wrestler right there. Like, look, this is the thing, man. I always stated that burying a wrestler just doesn't involve losing a match, and I stand by that statement. But the thing about this is that this is Butch's like first match, right? And you're trying to take Butch seriously, but like, first off, he changed his name from Pete Dunne to Butch, so why am I supposed to take him seriously? So like, honestly, this is just really dumb. It's a dumb booking decision in my opinion, but whatever. We got Gunther versus a jobber known as Joe Alonzo. Basically Gunther was just going right after Joe. Ludwig Kaiser, a.k.a. Marcel Bartel. Yes, Marcel Bartel got a name change, and he's called Ludwig Kaiser. I'm like, what the hell? What kind of name is that, Ludwig Kaiser? Like, that is so Vince McMahon, bro. That should be like a t-shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees. That is so Vince McMahon creative. So he changed his name to Ludwig Kaiser. And then, so during the match, Gunther ragdolls his opponent around. We get an overhand chop by Gunther. And then we get a big boot by Gunther. We get a chop. And then we get an overhand right to the chest. And then we go for another chop. And then he slams him to the mat. He chops him again and then hits a powerbomb. And Gunther wins the match. Overall, it was a squash match. Let's be honest. It was a squash match that should have been a little quicker. I felt like, even though the match was not even long whatsoever, I felt like it shouldn't have been as long as it should have been. It should have been a direct squash, but whatever. After that, Kayla Braxton interviews Raquel, not Gonzalez, Raquel Rodriguez. So again, name change of mania is running wild, ladies and gentlemen. Which, out of all of the name changes, I do not get why they name changed Raquel Gonzalez to Raquel Rodriguez. What is the problem with Gonzalez? That makes no sense whatsoever. Again, it's so embarrassing how NXT is on national television, and you have people that watch all three shows, and then they're like, "Oh my God, this Raquel Gonzalez is really good." And then once they bring her up, they're like, "Wait, I thought she was Raquel Gonzalez." Like, it makes no sense. NXT is on national television. Don't treat the audience like they're stupid. That's how I see it. I definitely, people all talk about the name changes and shit. And yes, I do get why they do it, is because of the fact that they want to own the intellectual property of those specific names. But again, the problem with it is, it to me, every time I see name changes, and this is coming from somebody that doesn't even watch NXT. I'll watch NXT maybe a couple of times. I'm just a casual watcher of NXT. I honestly do not follow NXT. I do not care about NXT, especially now, because NXT 2.0 to me, I remember I saw the first show of NXT 2.0, I was like, It's not for me. To me, NXT 2.0 is not really my taste. I know some people like NXT 2.0, but to me, it's just not my taste. I just don't like that. But, if you're a fan that watches all three shows, like I watch only Raw and SmackDown, but if you watch Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, you're basically treated like you're a dumbass because, like, you see this name change, and I'm like, wait, isn't this Raquel Gonzalez? Like, it makes no sense. So WWE, to me, is insulting the intelligence just by the name changes. That's how I see it. But she basically, cuts a promo, and then Los Lotharios comes in. All right. We got Happy Talk with Happy Corbin, the worst heel in the business, Happy Corbin. Corbin is basically sad after his loss to McIntyre, which, by the way, Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin at WrestleMania, I talked shit about that match. I'm not going to lie. The match was not as bad as it was. I mean, the feud was stupid. The feud was absolutely dumb. But the match itself was not that bad. But, there was a lot of great offense in the match. I'm not going to lie. Corbin did great. One thing I will say about Baron Corbin is that he's a fantastic pro wrestler. But in the promo, Corbin is sad and says that he was the most happy. He said it was the most happy day of his life, and he should be celebrating his victory, but he lost at Mania. Now, at least during his low points, you figure out who you are. He had an honest conversation with himself, or I should say he had an honest conversation with himself, and he came to the conclusion that he blames Madcap Moss over his loss to Drew McIntyre, because if you guys don't remember, during the match with Madcap Moss and Drew McIntyre, Moss was actually on the apron, and he was getting pissed, and Corbin just banned him out. Well, not banned him from the ringside area, just tell him to leave. But after that, he says that he's forgotten his place, and his place is to tell him a joke. And basically, at this point, Corbin was actually threatening Moss to tell a joke, and he tells a joke. So he tells 3 jokes, and the first 2 jokes he doesn't laugh, right? And then it looked like he was about to laugh, but on that last joke, but he didn't. I'm not even gonna repeat these jokes because the jokes are absolutely dumb. But Madcap then tells another joke, and then Corbin says that his jokes have been terrible, and Corbin wants him to tell him a funny joke, like his job depends on it, because it does. Madcap does a joke, and it targets Happy Corbin. So he basically jokes about Happy Corbin, and then Corbin attacks Moss, but then Moss actually gains offense. Both brawl onto the outside. Corbin then sends Moss to the barricade. Moss then regains control and hits him repeatedly headfirst onto the announce table, and then he takes him back to the ring. We get multiple rights by Moss and a couple of clotheslines by Moss onto the outside. So Moss stands tall in the center of the ring, and honestly, Moss is now a babyface. So Madcap Moss is now a babyface. What do I think about this? I hated the Madcap Moss character. I thought it was absolutely dumb and stupid. But we'll see where this goes. I mean, I believe, and I feel so stupid for saying this because I hate goofy shit in wrestling, but sometimes goofy shit can work. Yeah, I mean, I definitely stated that. I feel dumb for saying that, but I mean, you never know, man. If he gets over, I mean, I'll be shocked. But again, it's kind of weird that they turned him babyface, but it is what it is. We'll have to see where this takes Happy Corbin in the near future. Really, the best version of Baron Corbin was the original Baron Corbin, but I'm not gonna lie, man, bum ass Baron Corbin was entertaining as hell. All right. Jinder Mahal backstage argues with Adam Pearce, and he wants an Intercontinental Championship match with Ricochet. And Jinder Mahal talks about how he's a former WWE champion, blah, 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 a former United States champion. I'm like, does anybody care about that? Does anybody remember that? Yeah, neither did I. But, all of a sudden, Ronda Rousey comes in and asks if she has a rematch, and Adam says that it's not official yet, and then Ronda says tomorrow. And I'm like, what? Overall, to be quite honest, I do not care. I mean, Jinder Mahal versus Ricochet is going to be happening, I believe, next week for the IC Championship, and I think it's going to be a pretty good match. But I mean, of all people, Jinder Mahal, to me, Jinder Mahal, became completely irrelevant even after he lost the WWE title. His WWE Championship reign was garbage, in my opinion. I thought it was garbage. I actually had hope for it in the beginning, but really, let's be honest, the whole title reign was crap. But we got Jinder Mahal versus Ricochet. Ricochet, he's probably one of the best in-ring talents in the company right now, but the way that they book him, is just dumb. But they literally have him book have him booked to lose singles matches. That's how dumb it is. But yeah, man, we got Jinder Mahal versus Ricochet next week, and also Ronda Rousey. Adam Pearce is still looking to see if Ronda and Charlotte is official. Which, as of right now, the match is official. So it's going to be Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair in an I Quit match for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania Trash Lash. All right. We got Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn in a very entertaining match. I thought the Sami Zayn. Speaking of Sami Zayn, the match that he had with Johnny Knoxville was hilarious. I absolutely loved that match. It was funny as shit, and I just had a blast watching it. It was bad. It was terrible, but it was hilarious, and it made you have fun, and it was really entertaining. But we got Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn, and we got a rematch next week, mainly because of the fact that this match ended via countout. But Sammy escapes to the outside and comes back in the ring. That's basically a norm throughout the entirety of this match. Drew then sends him to the barricade and drops him down to the barricade. Both get back in the ring. Sammy then gains control, but then gets caught into a two-belly suplex by McIntyre. We get a second belly-to-belly. Then we get a chop by Drew. Sammy then goes to the outside again and then gets taken up to the announce table. Drew then picks up Sammy and throws him to the top of the announce table, and then he takes Sammy back in the ring, but Sammy escapes again. Then Sammy bails again, but then Drew runs and clotheslines Sammy on the stage. Drew then picks up Sammy and takes him back into the ring, but then Drew misses the Claymore when Sammy goes to the outside. Sammy retreats and goes up the crowd. The referee counts to 10, and the match ends via countout. Overall, I don't like count-out victories on WWE television. It's like a constant thing, like either DQ finishes or count-out finishes. I think is really a dumb decision to make, especially if you're on television. But, I mean, they're going to have a rematch next week, which I don't know why they're going to do. Rematch of Mania is running wild, ladies and gentlemen, next week. But overall, was this a pretty good match? Not really. I didn't care at all for what this match. I mean, Drew McIntyre should be in a better profile position on the SmackDown brand. Really, if you compare the Raw brand and the SmackDown brand, if you compare both main event scenes, honestly, the Raw brand has the better of the two main event scenes. I mean, Raw has an awesome-ass main event scene. They got Edge, Rollins, Styles. Like, they got a lot of people on that main event scene on the Raw side. Lacey Evans. Yes, Lacey Evans is back, and she got the video package, and she talks about her early life and talks about how she will never give up. Overall, I was not really that big of a fan of Lacey Evans, to be quite honest with you. I thought her gimmick was kind of garbage, but I definitely do see her coming in as the babyface. We'll see where it goes. If it's going to be a success, I'll be the first one to come here and be like, hey, it was a success. But we'll have to wait and see. I think they're going to be airing multiple video packages for the next couple of weeks on the SmackDown brand. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But it looks like Lacey Evans is now officially a babyface, because when she left, because of the fact that she was pregnant, Lacey Evans was a heel, but now she is a babyface. We got Sasha Banks versus Liv Morgan. This was a pretty good match. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sasha Banks and Liv Morgan. I think they're both great wrestlers. But the problem is that Sasha Banks lost a week after she won with Naomi the Women's Tag Team Championship. So to me, it kind of makes no sense for them to do that, but it is what it is. Rhea Ripley is not with Liv Morgan tonight, but she will be on Raw Monday night because they got a championship match. But the thing about it is, a lot of people kind of know that Rhea Ripley is going to turn heel on Liv Morgan, because if you guys watched Raw this past Monday, Rhea Ripley walked off at the end after they lost a match. So, I mean, a lot of people are saying she's going to be the next member of Edge's faction. If that is the case, sign me up, because of the fact that really Rhea Ripley has been put in really bad positions on the roster as of late, and I feel like Rhea Ripley definitely does have the potential to be a legit star. Like, she was Raw Women's Champion, but let's be honest, her title reign was just pretty terrible in my opinion. And not only that, her as a babyface is just not good whatsoever, so I feel like she needs to turn heel. And I definitely do think her joining the Edge faction is definitely the catalyst to that. But we got Sasha Banks versus Liv Morgan. Both lock up. We get a roll-up by Liv Morgan, and we get a near fall. We get an overhand chop by Sasha. At this point, Sasha is in control. Then Liv sends Sasha face first to the corner. Banks goes for the backstabber when Morgan is on the middle rope. Liv then goes to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, Banks goes for the Three Amigos, and then Banks goes to the top. Then she hits the frog splash after that. We got a cover and a near fall after that. Liv then goes for an enziguri, but then Liv goes for a springboard and then gets caught and dropped by Sasha straight to the mat. And then we get a bunch of roll-up reversals by both. We get a jackknife pin by Sasha, and we get a near fall. We get a kick by Sasha. Both then take each other down. Banks then tries to go for the backstabber, but Liv Morgan escapes. Banks then goes for the double knees, but Liv fires back and drives her knee onto Sasha. At this point, both are on the top, and then she takes Liv and hits a superplex. Then Liv goes for the inside cradle on Banks and wins the match. Overall thoughts, it was not a bad match, but the problem is that Sasha Banks won I mean, Sasha Banks lost. I mean, to me, that makes no sense, especially if she just won the championship. Like, to me, that's just really stupid and dumb. But it is what it is. I definitely do see when it comes to Rhea Ripley, I definitely do sense her turning on Liv Morgan this Monday night. All right, we got the main event, that being Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Roman Reigns, of course, the unified Universal Champion and WWE Champion. The Usos, the current reigning SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And, of course, our special counsel, Paul Heyman. Overall, this was a great segment. I enjoyed what I watched. Roman Reigns, of course, tells the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to acknowledge him. So he's going to share something private, and his wise man discusses, and it pains him to say this, but SmackDown and the Universal title wasn't enough. He went to WrestleMania and took the WWE title from Brock after smashing him. He talked about what the next step is for the Tribal Chief, and he doesn't think he can do much more. There's still a lot left for the Bloodline. And he saw so many photos and says the Usos have 2 titles, and it's time to unify the tag team championships. And he wants the Usos to win the Raw tag team titles. It says the Bloodline is going to have all the gold soon. So what are my thoughts on Roman Reigns actually wanting the Usos to unify the championships? About damn time. The tag team division in the WWE has been absolute garbage. Like, literally, WWE does not put their emphasis on tag team wrestling because of the fact that they do not like tag team wrestling. They don't care about it. But honestly, if the Usos win both the Raw and SmackDown tag team championships, I definitely do see, them having great matches with a lot of great teams. But we'll have to wait and see. But after that, Shinsuke Nakamura comes out, and Shinsuke is about to speak, but then Roman puts the mic down. It says that he doesn't have anything to say. He doesn't have to say anything. And then Roman talks about Rick Boogs and says that he gets it. He wants to help Shinsuke. So what does Roman do? Roman hugs Shinsuke. And then after hugging Shinsuke, what do the Usos do? The Usos then super kick Shinsuke Nakamura, and the Bloodline stand tall with all the belts that they have, and the show ends. Overall thoughts, I definitely enjoyed that visual with Shinsuke Nakamura being hugged by Roman Reigns. He's like, what the hell is this shit? And after that, the Usos just instantly go for the super kick. I absolutely loved that visual. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. But what are my thoughts on the Usos possibly going for the Raw Tag Team Championships? I'm 100% for it. I feel like having 2 Tag Team Championships on 2 separate rosters that have 4 tag teams on each division makes no sense. I think having 1 tag team division is the perfect thing for WWE, and it can really open the possibilities of a lot of great matches involving the Usos. And honestly, it's going to set the Bloodline as an unstoppable faction for the WWE. And honestly, I'm all 100% for it. But overall thoughts, what are my thoughts on SmackDown? I thought SmackDown was kind of a lackluster show, to be quite honest with you. I just didn't really care about what's going on besides Roman Reigns. And really, even the Ronda stuff, I just did not care about. A lot of the matches did not really feel like it was a big deal to me. I just felt like they were just there for the sake of being there. But yeah, SmackDown overall was just not really that good of a show. The only interesting thing was Roman Reigns. But yeah, before I get on with AEW Rampage, of course, make sure to like and subscribe to the Broken Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, another reminder that the Broken Havoc podcast is now available on audio formats. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. If you guys want to check out the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube and watch me review Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, AEW pay-per-views, WWE pay-per-views, New Shock, Old School Showcase, if you guys want to listen to those in audio format, it's available on those audio platforms. All right, let's get on with AEW Rampage. Overall, what are my thoughts on Rampage? I thought Rampage was a really good show, in my opinion. I enjoyed Rampage for what it was. And next week, it's going to be a big week for AEW, especially for Rampage, because Rampage is going to be live, and the main event is going to be Hangman Page versus Adam Cole in a Texas death match for the AEW World Championship. I'm definitely excited for that match. Also, not only we have AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage, we also got AEW Battle of the Belts 2, which I will definitely be reviewing right here on the podcast. So be on the lookout for the Dynamite, Rampage, and also Battle of the Belts 2 review. But what are my thoughts on Rampage? I definitely enjoyed Rampage for what it was, and we can't. And I stated this right at the beginning of this video. we can't talk about Rampage without talking about Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. Those guys put on a freaking classic, in my opinion. Now, granted, was it like a legit 5-star amazing match? No. But really, if you look at the match in retrospect, the visual of Wheeler Yuta having blood all over him really brings you, and it really gets you interested in the story that they're telling when it comes to Wheeler Yuta being like, dude, this guy Wheeler Yuta right here is being like he's not really being used to his full potential with best friends. And really, you got guys like Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta wanting to bring him in, but he has to really take the punishment first in order to be coming into the faction. And I absolutely loved the match that he had with Jon Moxley, and the match that he had with Bryan Danielson on Dynamite was fantastic. I love the match that he had with Bryan Danielson. That match was probably a match of the year caliber match. Like, AEW this year, matches alone have been doing really well. Like, I'm like, by the end of the year, one of the goals that I really want to do is list my top 30 favorite matches of both WWE and AEW, and probably Ring of Honor as well. Like, literally, I'm going to be doing a list about that. Like, honestly, AEW has had some awesome ass matches, but Rampage starts, and we got Bryan Danielson versus Trent Beretta. Overall, this was a great match. I enjoyed Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is fantastic, and I love his current work and what he's doing in the Blackpool Combat Club. But at this point, Danielson is in control over Trent. We get a kick to the back of Trent. We get a wrist lock by Danielson. We get a side headlock by Danielson. We get a back elbow by Trent. Danielson gets up. We get a kick. We got multiple kicks, I should say, by Danielson. He takes Trent to the corner and hits him with repeated chops. Trent then fires back with chops, and we get he runs to the boot by Danielson. Then Danielson applies the guillotine, but then Trent counters into a backdrop. Danielson then takes Trent to the top rope. He hits a chop. Trent then counters a suplex, and Danielson gets taken to the outside. Trent then runs to the outside, but Danielson takes him out. We get a tope suicida, a.k.a. the all-famous suicide dive by Danielson, but then Trent counters into a Saito suplex on the floor, which looked devastating. Then Trent runs up to the steel steps, or I should say runs to the steel steps. And once we're back from commercial break, Danielson is in control. Danielson proceeds to hit Trent with an uppercut. We get a headbutt by Danielson. Trent is on the middle rope at this point. We get a right hand by Trent, but Danielson fires back into another uppercut. Then he hits a suplex on Trent. Danielson goes to the top, and Trent takes Danielson to the top and hits a superplex. Then both exchange chops. We get an uppercut by Danielson. At this point, he misses the enziguri. Trent then fires back with a release German suplex. Then Trent hits a back elbow. Trent then misses the tornado DDT, and, there were multiple attempts at it, and this is the first that failed. So we got a tornado DDT missed by Trent Beretta. We got a shoulder capture suplex by Danielson. We got a cover and a near fall. Then he applies the submission, but then Trent goes to the bottom rope. We got a couple of knees by Danielson. Trent then catches Danielson for the Gotch-style pile driver. And then we get a bunch of roll-up attempts by both wrestlers, and we get a near fall. Then he misses the running knee. We get a tornado DDT by Trent. After that, we get a cover by Trent and a near fall. Trent then takes Danielson to the top. He hits an overhand chop. Danielson then counters, and then Danielson goes back to the top. He hits a side slam, but then Trent lands on Danielson's head, which looked really nasty. We get a cover by Trent and a near fall. We get a right hand by Trent, and we get a kick by Danielson. And then after that, we get rolling elbow exchanges. Trent then hits the half and half suplex and then takes him out. We get a cover and a near fall. Trent then fires back with repeated rights, but then Danielson fires with the Busaiku knee. Then he hits the Gotch-style pile driver, and then Danielson kicks his head in, applies the crossface, and what happens? Trent passes out, and Danielson wins the match. Overall, this was a great opening match for Rampage, and of course, it's setting the tone for what we're basically going to see when it comes to Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. Mainly because of the fact that Bryan Danielson is in the same faction as Jon Moxley. But overall, this is a great match. I enjoyed the match for what it was, and it's only going to get better when it came to Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. We got a backstage interview with Hook. Hook doesn't even answer all of the questions because this guy is such a badass. Then he leaves. But what happens as soon as he leaves? Danhausen comes out with the trash can. He tries to curse Hook once again, but Hook leaves, so the curse does not work. Well, Danhausen, the curse didn't work because Hook is such a badass. So you got to be careful. That was Danhausen. My inner Danhausen was talking about that. But yeah, man. So Hook, try to get, Danhausen tried to hook. My words are getting like extremely like messed up here. But Danhausen tries to curse Hook, which why is that not working? I don't know why. I mean, like Hook is such a badass. Maybe it just doesn't work on him. That just gets Hook over like 100% even more. This guy, bro, I have that belief that Hook is 100% going to be a mainstream star. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Call me a mark, but Hook is going to be the man. All right, we got a segment that was actually pretty entertaining for what it was, but it's safe to say that the AEW fans are starting to shit all over Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti. I don't have a problem with it, but the audience absolutely hates them. But Scorpio Sky cuts a promo on how he's been dominant. Of course, Scorpio Sky is the current TNT champion. Says that he has made a brave decision on removing the open door challenge. He's looking for someone to step up. Someone who's going to think that they got what it takes to do what no one has done in 394 days. Of course, 394 days. Those are the days that Scorpio Sky has been undefeated. Then Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti, the Spanish God, comes out. And Sammy then says that the title is not supposed to make the man, but the man is supposed to make the title. So it's your typical babyface line right there. Says that he's going to make the title look like nothing. And then Sammy asks Dan, what is he going to say something sexist? Thinks he's going to have them offended. They're used to this. Sammy then asks Ty Conti to translate sexist piece of shit in Portuguese, which she did not. She said Dan Lambert. That's basically her translation. Dan Lambert. He is a sexist piece of shit. I love Dan Lambert, by the way. He's fucking hilarious. And then, after that, Dan Lambert replies and says that, he thinks that Ty called him a sexist. Maybe he is, but he is also a father. And the father in him thinks that her mother and father had suffered too much in this lifetime. Then the father in him says that when they run their mouth, talk a little more than what they're going to do in the ring, rather than what they do in the bedroom, which is a funny ass line by Dan Lambert, which safe to say he's not lying. But then Sammy says that they're here for a match. Ethan Page then gets the microphone and says that Sammy is a pillar, and he's one of the first cracks of the foundation of this company because the two of them are a PR disaster waiting to happen week after week, which was a funny ass line. I loved that line by Ethan Page. I mean, like, this is coming from somebody that really wasn't that high on Ethan Page, but Ethan Page has grown on me, in my opinion, man. Ethan Page has definitely grown on me, but I'm not gonna lie, man. That line that he stated about the PR disaster waiting to happen, I mean, I don't want to predict the future and all, but like, I mean, Sammy and Ty are starting to get that negative reaction from the audience, man. Like, the AEW fans are not eating this shit up. They're absolutely hating on this, which is hilarious. But after that, he says not only it's bad for his image, but he is also a father. Then he says he goes closer to the camera and tells his daughter Gabriella, who knows is asleep because he's a damn good parent, and he prays that she does not end up like Ty Conti. Sammy then says that he doesn't give a shit about his kid and says until they get a match every week, they're going to do the same old thing, and that is make their life a living hell. He was mad about the car. Just wait until what they have planned next week. So, what are my thoughts on this match? We're probably going to be seeing a rematch when it comes to Scorpio Sky and Sammy Guevara. Overall, I do not have a problem with that. I thought Scorpio Sky and Sammy Guevara had a really good match. Like that I think, what was it, 630 or 450? I don't remember, through that table in which Sammy Guevara missed, which looked absolutely devastating. I enjoyed the match for what it was. I was actually really shocked that that Scorpio Sky actually won the match. I actually expected Sammy Guevara to retain the TNT Championship, but that did not happen. But I'm definitely enjoying the run of Scorpio Sky. I think Scorpio Sky is doing great with the TNT Championship, and it brings a lot of possibilities. And I feel like with the involvement of Dan Lambert, I feel like it brings in entertaining television. I enjoy Dan Lambert. I think Dan Lambert's work has been fantastic, and I think like that type of heel, we need more of that in wrestling. I feel like Dan Lambert is the guy that knows how to generate legit heel heat, especially in the current society that we live in right now. Like, the guy knows how to generate heat. Like, the guy's awesome. I love Dan Lambert. We got our Sports Entertainer of the Week, which, again, one of my favorite things that I like about Rampage is the fact that even though you do not have a split roster like Raw and SmackDown, Rampage still tends to separate itself from Dynamite, which I really enjoy. That's one of the biggest failures of the WWE brand split, is that you do not, even though SmackDown and Raw have different rosters, you do not see the distinction between Raw and SmackDown. I think, what made the brand split so special back in 2002, 2003, and 2004 was that the shows were completely different from one another, not just by look or because of the fact that they had different rosters. It was the format of the shows. And I feel like the format of Rampage, I love how Rampage has their own specific segments that are not on Dynamite. Like, I love the fact that you're only able to see Hook right now on Rampage before he makes his big Dynamite debut. I love that. I think it's really interesting, and that's what really gets me interested in Rampage. It's that, Rampage does have its own unique feel to it and its own unique segments to it. And, for example, we got the Sports Entertainer of the Week. That is a segment that you only see on Rampage, and that's what I really enjoy. Rampage, even though the roster is the same, they still have their own unique segment. So that's what I enjoy about Rampage. I just wanted to point that out there right now. But we got our Sports Entertainer of the Week, and that is QT Marshall. We got Swerve Strickland versus QT Marshall, by the way. QT Marshall's wrestling. It was a pretty short match for what it was, but it was not a bad match. Both lock up. We got a shoulder tackle by QT. At this point, Swerve is in control. We get a roll-up by Swerve and a near fall. QT then sends Swerve to the outside, but then Swerve stands to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, Swerve then goes for an elbow strike on QT Marshall. Then he goes to the top and hits an elbow to the back of QT. We get an arm drag by Swerve. Then we get a pump up right elbow by QT Marshall. He tries to go for the cutter, but then Swerve fights back. He hits a drop kick and a flatliner on Marshall. Then after that, he tries to go for a jumping stomp to the back of the neck of QT. We get a cover, and Swerve Strickland wins the match. After that, Ricky Starks takes the microphone, and he challenges him to a tag team match next week on Dynamite. All right. So after that, we get a Marina Shafir video package. Of course, that's going to be the next opponent for Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship. We got Willow Nightingale versus Red Velvet. Overall, of course, Willow Nightingale was she competed in at Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor against Mercedes Martinez to crown an interim Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Of course, Deonna Purrazzo is the current Ring of Honor Women's Champion, but she did have obligations for Impact Wrestling, so that was why she couldn't compete at the show. So instead, they crowned an interim champion. So, of course, Mercedes Martinez won the match. But overall, I was not really that high on Willow Nightingale. I mean, her match with Mercedes Martinez wasn't bad, but was it the best match of the night? No, but I think Willow Nightingale definitely does have a lot of potential. But we got Willow Nightingale versus Red Velvet. We got a roll-up by Willow. We got a leg lariat by Velvet. We got a shoulder tackle by Willow. And then we got a second shoulder tackle by Willow. We got a cover into near fall. Willow then proceeds to slam Velvet, but then misses a senton. Velvet that takes Willow into the corner, but then goes for a couple of body shots. She drives the boot on Willow. We get a Northern Light suplex by Willow. We get a senton, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Willow then goes to the top. She hits a moonsault. After that, Velvet fights back with a couple of clotheslines. She takes Willow to the middle rope and then drives the double knees. Then she hits the spinning kick. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a right forearm by Velvet, but then Willow hits the spine buster. We get an overhand chop by Willow, and then both exchange shots after that. Willow then goes for the pounce, so she pulled a Monty Brown right there. Every time when a wrestler does the pounce, I don't care what anybody says. Every time when a wrestler does a pounce, I instantly think of Monty Brown. But she hit the pounce. Then after that, she hits a cannonball into the corner, and we get a cover by Willow and a near fall. Then Willow picks up Velvet, but Velvet escapes. She tries to go for the backstabber, but then Willow counters. We got a spinning kick by Velvet, and we got a cover by Red Velvet, and Red Velvet qualifies for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, which I forgot to mention. This was a qualifying match for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Overall, was this match pretty good? Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Was it the best match? No, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Red Velvet is great. Willow Nightingale, to me, is starting to grow on me. I wasn't really that big of a fan of Willow Nightingale, to be quite honest with you. To me, the first time I was ever introduced to Willow Nightingale was last Friday. And I thought she wrestled a good match with Mercedes Martinez, but to me, it wasn't the best match of the night. But overall, I think having to involve Willow Nightingale is a great decision, in my opinion. And Red Velvet winning, honestly, was the right decision because I felt like Red Velvet is more established, so she deserves to be in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. All right. We get a backstage interview with Tony Nese. Tony Nese is pissed that there's no enthusiasm in the question that he was asked by the interviewer. And pissed off that he didn't get what he deserves. Then Smart Mark Sterling comes in and offers Tony legal representation. So he wanted to have a conversation with Tony. So where does this lead to? We'll have to wait and see. The main event of the evening is Jon Moxley versus the Ring of Honor Pure Champion Wheeler Yuta. Of course, Wheeler Yuta won the Ring of Honor Pure Championship at Supercard of Honor, defeating Josh Woods, in which I thought was a really good match. That was my first Pure Championship match that I saw, and honestly, I love the Pure Championship. I think the Pure Championship one thing I will say about the Pure Championship is that it brings the test to the wrestler. And I think what I mean by bringing the test to the wrestler is the rules that the Pure Championship implements. I think I really enjoy that, and hopefully we see a Pure Championship match on Dynamite in the next couple of weeks, because we're definitely going to be seeing Ring of Honor Championship defenses on Dynamite, because we do not know if Ring of Honor is still going to have a television show or a television show on a streaming service in the near future. So for the time being, AEW, what they're doing is having the Ring of Honor Championships being defended on Dynamite and Rampage. Like we just saw FTR versus the Young Bucks for the Ring of Honor and AAA Tag Team Championships. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wheeler Yuta ever defended his Ring of Honor Pure Championship, or if Jonathan Gresham defended his Ring of Honor World Championship. We'll have to wait and see what they do with that. But overall, back to Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta. This match, Wheeler Yuta versus Jon Moxley, was a fantastic match for Dynamite. For Rampage. I don't care what anybody says. This match was amazing. You can sit here and say, "Oh my God, AEW uses so much blood, and a little bit too much blood." And to an extent, you can't. That can't be a valid argument. But to me, the two matches that pop up, actually no, the three matches that pop up that used blood really, really well, and it really fit the story, was Cody versus Dustin at Double or Nothing back in 2019. The match that CM Punk had with MJF at Revolution a couple of weeks ago, and this match. This match, definitely, the blood was a symbolism of the story that they were telling, and I felt like, to me, Yuta, deserves all the credit in the world. The guy busted his ass in this match, and you can tell the enthusiasm on Wheeler Yuta's face, man. Like, Wheeler Yuta was bringing the fight to Jon Moxley, and this match definitely proved it. And the blood in this match definitely set the story, and it really set the tone for the story of Wheeler Yuta wanting to be in the Blackpool Combat Club. And, William Regal seeing, a guy like Wheeler Yuta and being like, this kid's got it. Let's see if he can take it. And, of course, he wrestled that fantastic match with Bryan Danielson this past Wednesday on Dynamite. Well, no, 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, I should say. It was a fantastic match, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was amazing. And also, the match that he had with Jon Moxley, bro, this match was insane. And you could tell by the look of Moxley's face when, Yuta kept on kicking out of the paradigm shift that, he was like, damn, this motherfucker is actually tough as fuck. But overall, man, this was a fantastic match for what it was. And definitely I'm going to be putting on my future top 30 best wrestling matches of the entire year. That's my plan for the end of the year, is my top 30 wrestling matches of the year. And I mean 30 because, I feel like 30 is, a number that really not a lot of people do. A lot of people do top 10, top 20, but I'm going to do top 30. See if I can top 30. But overall, Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta was an absolute fantastic match. Right from the start, Wheeler takes out Moxley on the outside with a tope suicida while Moxley was making his entrance. So already the match is starting to get intense. Yuta then is fighting Moxley through the crowd. Then Yuta takes Moxley headfirst onto the guardrail. Mox then goes back in the ring. We get a German suplex by Mox on Yuta. We get a suplex by Mox on Yuta. Yuta then misses a series of chops, or not misses, he goes for a series of chops. We get a boot by Moxley. Then Mox targets the face of Yuta after that. Then we get a couple of chops by Yuta. We get a headbutt by Yuta. Mox then sends Yuta to the outside. Mox then drives the head of Yuta onto the steel steps. Then Yuta at this point is busted open. At this point, during the commercial break, Moxley is murdering Wheeler Yuta. Once we're back from break, Moxley applies the leg submission, but then Yuta goes to the bottom rope. We get a couple of chops by Yuta. So at this point, Yuta is busted open, man. He's absolutely getting killed. We get a knee by Moxley. Moxley then gets sent to the outside by Yuta. Yuta then goes to the top and he hits a crossbody through the timekeeper's table. Then after that, Moxley returns to the ring. Yuta then goes for a backslide, but we get a near fall. Yuta then hits a deadlift German suplex, and then he hits it again. We get a rolling elbow by Moxley, but then Yuta hits a Samoan drop on Mox. Then Yuta hits, he kicks Moxley's head in like Danielson. So, he definitely kicks in the head of Moxley and goes for those repeated stomps to the head. So just like how Danielson does it, which is awesome to see. It was a great visual. And then Yuta goes to the top. He hits a dive from Moxley from the top. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Then he applies the crossface We get a roll-up by Moxley and a near fall. Moxley then after that goes for the King Kong Lariat. We get a cover and another near fall. Moxley then goes for a right, but then Yuta no-sells. Yuta is continuing to no-sell Moxley's right hands, and then he fights back. Moxley then bites the face of Yuta, and then he takes him to the top. But then Yuta bites the head of Moxley. We get a headbutt by Yuta. Yuta then goes down, but then down on Moxley, but then Moxley hits a boot to the midsection. Then Moxley hits the paradigm shift. Yes, he hits the paradigm shift, and he goes for the cover. 1, 2, nope. Yuta kicks out once again. So that was a close-ass near fall right there. Moxley then applies the bulldog choke. Yuta then tries to escape, but then Moxley goes for multiple knee strikes. Then we get a roll-up by Yuta and a near fall. Then he applies a side headlock submission, applies a sleeper hold on Moxley, but then Moxley transitions and goes for repeated elbows on Yuta. He hits a boot and then hits the paradigm shift. And at this point, you'd think it was over, but no. He goes for the cover, and we get another near fall. So what happens? Moxley's starting to panic. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go for the bulldog choke. So he applies the bulldog choke on Wheeler Yuta, a bloody Wheeler Yuta. Yuta fades. The bell rings. Jon Moxley makes Wheeler Yuta sleep. And overall, this was a fantastic, fantastic main event to close off Rampage. By far the best wrestling match of the entire week. In my opinion, I thought it was a great match. Actually, no. I'm not going to say it was the best match because FTR versus Young Bucks definitely deserves that spot. But I'm going to say this was the best match of the entire night. Out of all the matches that happened on Raw and Rampage, or not Raw and Rampage, SmackDown and Rampage, this match was fantastic. I don't care what anybody says. But let's talk about what happens after. So after the match, William Regal and Bryan Danielson come in. And then Regal shakes the hand of Wheeler Yuta. And then what happens after that, Wheeler Yuta grabs a little bit of his blood that's pouring down his face, and he writes Blackpool Combat Club, or the BCC, and that the rest is history. So Wheeler Yuta is an official member of the Blackpool Combat Club. Overall thoughts, man, this was a fantastic, fantastic match, and I loved the story that they were telling when it came to Wheeler Yuta possibly joining the Blackpool Combat Club. It all started with the promo that Danielson was cutting on Moxley before their match at Revolution. If you guys do not remember, Danielson was talking about guys like Daniel Garcia or Wheeler Yuta. Like, those guys are right now treated like jokes, even though they have all the potential in the world. And then you look at a guy like Wheeler Yuta, and after, wrestling a fantastic match with, Danielson, not even before that, before he wrestled a match, I forgot against two, before his match with Danielson, once he's leaving with the best friends, he goes back and he shakes the hand of Regal. But then Regal slaps him, and then he goes back, and then he has the match with Danielson, and then he has a fantastic match with Danielson. But this match with Moxley absolutely elevated the hell out of Wheeler Yuta. There were three guys I got over, in the span of a week. That being Wheeler Yuta, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood. Like, those guys got super over right now. Wheeler Yuta is, so popular right now. And you know what? I'm proud to say that because Wheeler Yuta absolutely deserves it. Wheeler Yuta is a star in the making, and he's going to be a great addition to the Blackpool Combat Club, which, by the way, I bought the shirt and it's on its way. I bought it from AEW shop. Can't wait to wear that shirt, bro. Blackpool Combat Club. By the way, Blackpool Combat Club is such a badass name. But overall, I thought Rampage was a pretty good show for what it was. It was a great show. I definitely enjoyed what I was watching. That main event was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that was my WWE SmackDown and AEW Rampage review from April 8th, 2022. Please like and subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. And if you guys want to listen on audio platforms, listen on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, and all that. So yeah, please like and subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos and reviews right here on the Broken Havoc podcast. And as always, it is Broken Havoc signing out.